Hey everyone, this is Rob from Intended Consequences. Today I'm going to give you my 1 year, 5,000 mile review on the 2021 Indian Springfield Darkhorse. Hit the graphic. Alright folks, there she is, the 2021 Indian Springfield Darkhorse Sagebrush Smoke. I've had the luxury of riding this motorcycle for the last year, the last 5,500 miles or so, and I gotta tell you, it's been a real treat. So we're gonna take her out on the road, we're gonna do some pros, some cons, we're gonna revisit some of the stuff I talked about in my initial ride video. For right now, we're just gonna retouch the specs on that boy. It is running the 1.6 Thunderstroke engine, which is 890 cc's for those of you in the cc category. She is cruising in at 92 horsepower and a whopping 126 foot-pound of torque at 2,900 RPM. This beefy bad boy weighs in at 790 pounds. That's about 800 pounds with all the other junk added in, and retails MSRP at $22,500. That is a spicy meatball. It is a fantastic machine. So what do you say we get her out on the road and talk about it? Alright y'all, let's start with some of my pros. So the first pro is the reason I bought this motorcycle, for comfort on long rides. And let me tell you something, this motorcycle has done just that. The suspension is great, the comfort is great, my rider triangle is great. Everything about this bike is definitely comfortable. I am very comfortable on it. I can go long distances without a lot of trouble, and that is absolutely fantastic. Between the cruise control and again my rider triangle, it is just comfortable. The second thing is the power. I talked about the torque a minute ago, 126 foot-pounds of torque. Like, you can feel every bit of that torque. The power band on this motorcycle is super smooth. Even in 6th gear, I could gun the throttle and it'll just keep pulling. Like, it is just straight up. It is very clean. It is very smooth. I definitely enjoy the power band on this motorcycle. Is it going to beat a sport bike off the line? No, it's not. But certainly for the cruiser category, it's got it at every step of the ladder, and I absolutely love that. Next big thing I love, the big pro, is the looks, man. I've been to numerous bike rallies and events where there's been a bunch of motorcycles parked outside, and almost inevitably, you know, people walk up and down the line looking at the bikes. They almost always stop at this one. Bikers seem to really like this bike. I really love this bike. I realize beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but in this case, it seems like a lot of people share that mentality and that sentiment, and I appreciate that. I like receiving compliments just as much as anyone else. And with this bike specifically, like, the compliments come. It is a beautiful, beautiful motorcycle. The fit and finish is right on point. So let's talk some cons. There aren't many, but there's a few. I think we need to address them. The first and biggest one, in my opinion, is the way the electronic package on this bike works when you have a low gas light. When the low gas light comes on, you are unable to track your distance. And what I mean by that is, a lot of cars and other motorcycles, when your low gas light comes on, you can look and see how many miles do you have left, what's your range. And that's a very valuable tool in trying to decide, hey, when do I really need to stop and get gas? Like, when do I need to start really panicking? And this bike doesn't do that. The electronic package switches straight from it just says low fuel. There's the range feature is inaccessible. It's normally there, but it's inaccessible when the low gas light comes on, and you're not going to be able to see your range. You're not going to be seeing anything on your electronics display screen other than the fact that you're low on gas. And it'd be really nice if Indian would go ahead and make a fix, a patch for that. I think that's a very simple thing to do, but it is very inconvenient when you want to know your range when you're low on fuel. Another negative that I'm not crazy about is the rear suspension. Now, it works great. I just mentioned the suspension is great. The issue with the rear suspension is an air ride suspension, which means you have to pump air in it to adjust the preload to what suits best for you. Well, this is great, except for the fact that about every 60 days I have to go back in and re-pump it up. I thought it was initially just an issue with my bike, but speaking with numerous Indian owners with the same type of rear suspension, they do the same thing. And that's no fun. It's no fun every 60 days or so as your air suspension slowly deflates, and then you got to pump it kind of back up into place where it needs to be. So that's kind of a con. Maybe there is a fix. Maybe it's just coincidence that me and a few other Indian riders that I associate with have the same problem. But whatever it is definitely kind of annoying. And the third con that I'm not entirely crazy about is on the front brake. And I'll show a picture of that here in the corner. On the front brake, it looks like a cover has fallen off. There's this big metal piece going from the front brake into the parts here, and it just looks ugly. It looks gaudy. It looks exposed. It looks like there was a beautiful cover there, and it fell off to expose this, you know, clunky metallic, wet, gaudy knob. I'm not even sure what you really want to call it. But it's there, and it doesn't look good. I thought something fell off. I'm like, this is not supposed to be exposed. Let me go to Indian and see what's up. And lo and behold, to my surprise, I go to Indian, and sure enough, no, nothing's fallen off. That's the way it's supposed to look, which is a little bit surprising considering the fit and finish on this motorcycle from front to back is really solid. It's beautiful, beautiful machine, except for this one lever is ugly. Not a big fan. Not a big fan at all. So when I see something like that, I just go, come on, Indian, what's going on here? You know, maybe there's an aftermarket piece that I could get to cover that up. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't looked into it, but it just kind of struck me as odd, and then I embarrassed myself at Indian asking for a part that didn't exist to cover it up. So those are kind of like my big cons. Not a whole lot there, but certainly something. So just revisiting a couple things from my previous video, my initial ride interview with this motorcycle. One of the first things I went and discussed in length was the rear cylinder deactivation. So just a quick recap, this motorcycle, when you pull in the clutch, the rear cylinder, the cylinder closest to me, the rider, deactivates. That's done to save you on your fuel mileage. That's to help reduce wear and tear, and it's supposed to reduce the heat that comes off the engine on the rider. And I said in my initial interview that I couldn't tell the difference, and what it really did was made me have to give more gas off from the stop. Those two things are, one's true, one's not true. There's definitely a difference. I can definitely notice after a long day of riding the difference between rear cylinder on and rear cylinder off with the heat. And I've been riding for the past year, majority of it with the rear cylinder deactivation still activated, because I do appreciate that heat. There is a noticeable difference. I didn't notice it on my first video. I've definitely noticed it since. The second part, about giving more throttle, well, that's also true, and I've just gotten used to that. That's just something that it didn't take very long for me to kind of figure out, okay, what's what do I need to do to effectively use this machine, and now I don't even think about it. So not a problem. The other thing I put in my video was about the reach of the handlebars. I had mentioned it as for tall riders, and it was pretty long for me. And that was just something to be thinking of if you were interested in this motorcycle. And yeah, the handlebars haven't moved. They're in the same spot. I find them very comfortable. I haven't adjusted them or changed anything at all. However, you know, maybe that's for me, maybe that's for you. I don't know. Definitely something. I just burped in my mouth a little bit. That's why there was a pause there. Gross. Too much. Maybe I'll cut that, maybe I won't. I don't know. Anyway, the point is I find this position very comfortable. But I still, you know, if Corinne wants to ride the motorcycle, she's like, I gotta really reach to make this happen. So I get that that's kind of a bummer for her with some slightly shorter arms. So that's it. Who would I recommend this motorcycle for? Well, after a year in the saddle, 5,500 miles, it's definitely a very easy motorcycle. It's a very forgiving motorcycle. The throttle's not crazy. The friction zone is generous. It's very comfortable. It's got power, but not enough power to, you know, pull the wheel up or get yourself in any real trouble. So, you know, it's a very generous motorcycle for whoever's riding it. But that being said, I would put it in for cruiser boys, intermediate and expert riders. The only reason I wouldn't recommend it for a beginner is it's very heavy, has a very long wheelbase, and that makes maneuvering, especially in tight spots, a little bit tricky. I wouldn't necessarily, as a beginner, want to have to deal with that much weight and, you know, this thing turning like it's a boat. So not crazy about that. And the other thing is it's expensive. You know, $23,000 for a motorcycle is a very expensive motorcycle, and I don't think a new rider who's gonna have drops, who's gonna have close calls already, and just learning to ride, I don't think they want to have to deal with, you know, 23 grand on the line every time they roll out of the driveway. So it's not that a beginner couldn't handle it. I'm sure they could. Again, it is very easy to ride machine, but just with the weight, the maneuverability, and the expense, you know, I just don't think that a beginner rider would get much benefit. The risk and reward, right? Like there's a big chance you're going to end up wasting your money because you're going to make a mistake just by virtue of being new, and it's just a heavy bike. But that's it. What do you guys think? Leave me in the comments below. If you're a Road King, a Harley Road King rider, you know, this is basically a carbon copy of a Road King, or maybe a Road King is a carbon copy of a Springfield, but certainly they are almost mirror images of each other. So if you're a Road King rider, like, put in the comments below, would you ever switch over to a Springfield? And if you have any other questions about the Springfield, this is definitely my personal bike of choice. I'm going to have it for a long time, I hope. So if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. If you like this sort of thing, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, keep the rubber side down, and we'll see you next time.